Imagine standing in your garden and suddenly becoming aware. Every movement takes more strength than it used to. Your back aches faster. Your knees don't cooperate like they did 10 years ago. And yet, you know this garden could be your most important insurance. Not the one at the bank, not the one from the state, but this earth beneath your feet. Most people only realize this when it's too late, when prices explode, when shelves are empty, when the pension is no longer enough. The truth is, a well-managed garden can feed you when everything else fails, but only if you know the right methods. Methods that protect your body, cost nothing, and actually work. In the next few minutes, I will show you 17 of these methods. No theories, no complicated systems, but proven knowledge that generations before us used to remain independent. We live in a time where the knowledge of our grandparents has been forgotten. An entire generation has learned that everything can be bought, that the supermarket is always full, and that you don't have to worry about anything. But that time is coming to an end. Prices are rising faster than pensions. Supply chains are becoming more fragile. Suddenly, we remember that every family used to have a garden. Not as a hobby, but as a necessity, a silent guarantee that you would get through, no matter what happens. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, it was gardens that ensured the survival of millions of families. While banks collapsed and factories closed, potatoes, cabbage, and beans grew in gardens. That wasn't a romantic idea of country life. It was pure necessity, and the people who had these skills made it through. Others suffered. Today, this awareness is returning, but many people face a problem. They are no longer 20. The body doesn't do everything anymore. That is exactly why the methods I am showing you now are so valuable. They were developed for people who work smart, not hard. Top 1. Raise beds and adapting to the body. The first principle you must internalize is this: your garden must adapt to your body, not the other way around. Forget the images of people kneeling hunched over the ground for hours. That is the way of the young. You need a different way, and this way begins with a simple truth. Raise your garden. Build raised beds, but not by buying expensive kits. Look around your environment. Old pallets, scraps of boards, stones from the forest, even old bricks lying around at the neighbor's house. All of this can become a raised bed. The dimensions are simple but crucial. It should be about 80 to 90 centimeters high enough that you can work on it upright without bending over. Measure it against yourself. Stand upright, let your arms hang loosely, and bend your elbows at a right angle. The height of your hands is the perfect working height for your raised bed. This way you can work without straining your back. It should be 100 to 120 centimeters wide so that you can reach the middle from both sides. Stretch out your arm. About 60 centimeters is a comfortable reach. From both sides, that makes 120 centimeters. This allows you to reach every plant without having to step onto the bed. And as long as there is space, 2 mm, 3 mm, 5 mm, the length doesn't matter as long as the width and height are correct. Now comes the filling, and here lies real magic. This is not an arbitrary layering. It is a thought-out system based on natural decomposition processes. At the very bottom, directly on the existing soil, place coarse material, branches, twigs, even small logs. This material has several functions. It creates hollow spaces for drainage. Standing water is the death of the garden. This layer prevents waterlogging. At the same time, this wood begins to rot slowly over years, creating heat and nutrients. Your bed is fed from the inside. This layer should be 20 to 30 centimeters thick. Above that comes a layer of medium coarse material, smaller twigs, pieces of bark, chipped branches. If you have a shredder, perfect. If not, ask neighbors who are pruning trees for the material. Most are happy to get rid of it. This layer is 10 to 15 centimeters thick and connects the coarse bottom layer with the finer layers above. Then comes leaves, plenty of leaves, undecomposed leaves from autumn. You can get bags of leaves from the forest or collect them in the fall from your own garden. Store them in bags or a wire basket. In the spring, when you build your raised bed, you will have tons of them. This leaf layer should be 20 centimeters thick. Leaves are carbon-rich. They rot slowly and store moisture like a sponge, meaning your bed needs to be watered less often. On top of the leaves comes semi-finished compost or grass clippings, material that has already started to rot but isn't finished yet. This layer brings microorganisms into the bed, bacteria, fungi, and tiny organisms. They are the workers who transform everything beneath into humus. 10 to 15 cm is enough. The top layer is finished garden soil or good compost, 20 to 30 cm deep. This is where your plants grow and root. This soil must be nutrient-rich and loose. If you have to buy good garden soil, only buy this top layer. The rest is free from nature. What happens now? In the first year, you have a wonderfully high, comfortable bed. The plants grow excellently because the soil is loose and nutrient-rich. But the true advantage shows over the years. The lowest layers begin to rot. Fungal mycelia permeate the entire bed, connecting everything into a living network. These fungi transport nutrients and water to the plant roots better than you ever could. The bed slowly sinks, perhaps 5 to 10 centimeters per year. This is good. It means it is working. You simply top it up with some compost. After 5 to 7 years, the lowest layers have completely become black, crumbly humus. Your bed is now a perfect living soil factory, and you have never bent over, never strained your back, and never stressed your knees. This is not just convenience, it is strategy. Because only if the garden is not a torment will you use it long term. Only if you can work every day without pain will you stick with it. And consistency is the key to success. Top 2, mulching and soil protection. The second principle is perhaps the most powerful of all. Let nature work for you. Most people exhaust themselves because they fight against nature. They weed every day, they water constantly, they work and see hardly any results. Yet there is a method that has worked for millennia, and it is called mulching. Cover the soil. Always, everywhere. Naked earth should never be seen. Why is naked earth a problem? Because nature hates naked earth. Nature always wants to be covered. If you leave soil exposed, several things happen simultaneously. The sun beats down directly on the surface and kills microorganisms. The wind carries away the top, most fertile layer. Rain beats directly on the earth and washes away the surface, creating a hard crust. Water can no longer penetrate. It runs off instead of soaking in. And weed seeds floating everywhere in the air find perfect germination conditions. Within days, everything is green, but not with what you planted, but with what nature plants. Mulch prevents all of this. Use grass clippings if you have a lawn or a neighbor with a lawn. Apply it in a layer of 5 to 10 cm, not thicker or it will rot, not thinner or weeds will grow through. Let it wilt for a day before applying it. Fresh, wet grass clippings can clump and smell. Wilted grass clippings are perfect. Leaves from the forest are also excellent, especially deciduous leaves like beech, oak, or maple. They decompose slower than grass clippings and form a permanent cover. Mix different types of leaves. The more diverse, the better. Apply it 10 to 15 cm thick. It will sink to about 5 cm, which is perfect. Straw is the classic, not hay. Hay contains seeds that germinate. Straw is pure stalk material, almost without seeds. A layer of 10 cm lasts for months. Ask farmers in the area. Often they give you straw for free or for little money, especially if it's a bit older and they no longer want to use it for animals. Even shredded cardboard works. Take boxes without color printing, simple brown cardboard. Remove tape and labels. Soak the cardboard briefly in water to make it flexible. Lay it overlapping on the bed. On top of that comes a thin layer of compost or soil so it doesn't fly away. The cardboard completely suppresses even the most stubborn weeds. After a year, it has rotted and become humus. This mulch layer on the soil achieves 3 things at once. It keeps moisture in the soil. Unmulched soil loses several liters of water per square meter on a hot summer day through evaporation. Mulched soil loses almost nothing. This means you only have to water half as often or only a third as much. This saves not only water, but time, strength, and money if you use tap water. It radically suppresses weeds. Weed seeds need light to germinate. Under a thick mulch layer, they get no light and do not germinate. The few that do make it have weak, long stems and can be pulled out with a flick of a finger. There is no comparison to hours of weeding on naked earth. And finally, it slowly transforms into humus. From the bottom up, where the mulch layer touches the soil, decomposition begins. Earthworms pull the materials into the ground, and microorganisms break them down. What was applied as grass clippings or leaves is humus a year later. Black gold, the most fertile substance there is. And you have done nothing except apply it. Nature has done the work. Imagine having to water only half as often, weed half as often, and the soil getting better instead of worse. Every year a bit looser, every year a bit darker, every year a bit more alive. This is not a fantasy. This is mulching. It costs nothing, saves time, and has worked for millennia. Nature shows us how. Go into the forest. Do you ever see naked ground? No. Everything is covered with leaves, twigs, and moss. Learn from nature, copy it, and you will get the same results. Top 3, composting and the alchemy of waste. Now we come to something that many people overlook, even though it is the core of everything. Compost. Not just any compost, but your compost from your kitchen waste, from your garden, every potato peel, every apple core, every wilted lettuce leaf, every eggshell, every coffee ground is pure gold. But most people throw it away. They then buy fertilizer at the store. Expensive fertilizer, chemical fertilizer. Yet you produce daily the best thing your garden can get. Let me explain what compost really is. It is not just rotted trash. It is a complex ecosystem. Millions of bacteria, thousands of fungal species, hundreds of different insects, worms, woodlice, and springtails. They all work together to break down organic material and transform it into plant-available nutrients. This is alchemy. You transform waste into gold, and you only have to create the right conditions. A compost pile does not have to be complicated. Forget the expensive compost systems from the garden center. You don't need a rotating drum composter for $200. Choose a corner of your garden, ideally in partial shade. Not in the blazing sun, or it will dry out. Not in deep shade, or it will be too cold. Place it directly on the earth, not on concrete or pavement. Contact with the earth is important. From there, worms and microorganisms migrate in. You can build a simple frame. 4 posts in the ground, wire mesh around them, done. Or stack old pallets, or let the pile stand freely as a heap. That works just as well. It should have at least 1 cubic meter. Smaller is hardly worth it, as it doesn't heat up enough. Larger is better, but harder to handle. Now comes the most important principle in composting, the ratio of green to brown material. Green material is everything that is moist, soft, and nitrogen-rich. Vegetable and fruit scraps, lawn clippings, fresh garden waste, coffee grounds, tea bags. Brown material is everything that is dry, hard, and carbon-rich. Leaves, straw, shredded twigs, torn cardboard, sawdust from untreated wood. The ideal ratio is roughly 1 to 2, 1 part green, 2 parts brown, or 3 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen chemically expressed, but you don't have to calculate. Simply layer a layer of kitchen waste about 10 centimeters, then a layer of leaves or straw 20 centimeters. Again, kitchen waste, again leaves. This is how you build the pile. What happens if the ratio is wrong? Too much green, too little brown, the pile becomes wet, mushy, and smells like rot. That is anaerobic decomposition without oxygen. You don't want that. Too much brown, too little green, the pile hardly rots. It takes years instead of months and stays cold. You don't want that either. The right ratio leads to aerobic decomposition with oxygen. The pile heats up. After a few days, you can put your hand inside and feel it is warm, really warm, 50, 60, sometimes 70 degrees Celsius. This heat kills weed seeds, kills pathogens, and enormously accelerates decomposition. Moisture is the second critical factor. The pile should be moist like a wrung-out sponge. If you take a handful of material and squeeze it, a few drops of water should come out. No more, no less. Too dry, and the microorganisms don't work. Too wet, and there's no air, just rot. In dry periods, water it with a hose or watering can. If it's too wet, mix in dry material. Air is the third factor. Microorganisms need oxygen. Therefore, you should turn the pile every few weeks. That means throwing it from one side to the other with a pitchfork. The outside goes inside, the inside goes outside. This aerates it, mixes it, and accelerates everything. If that is too strenuous, simply poke deep into the pile several times with a stick or an iron rod to make holes. This also brings air in. After 3 to 6 months, depending on the weather and the mix, the compost is ready. You recognize it by its dark brown to black color. It smells like forest soil. You can no longer recognize the original materials. It is crumbly. If you take a handful, it sticks together slightly but falls apart with light pressure. This is perfect compost. Sift it through a coarse sieve. What falls through is ready for the beds. What remains in the sieve, large pieces, throw back onto the new pile. This compost is the best thing you can give your plants. It contains all the nutrients the original materials had, but now they are plant available. It improves soil structure. Heavy clay soils become looser. Light sandy soils store water better. It provides millions of beneficial microorganisms that protect your plants from diseases and help roots absorb nutrients. And it didn't cost you a cent. More than that, you have transformed waste into life. This is the principle of nature. Cycle instead of waste, regeneration instead of exploitation. Top 4. Rainwater harvesting. This leads us directly to the fourth principle. Water is life, but you don't have to pay for it. Every time it rains, precious water runs off your roof. An average single-family house with 100 square meters of roof area collects 100 liters of water with 1 millimeter of rain. With 10 millimeters, it's 1,000 liters. In an average year, 600 to 800 millimeters of rain falls. That means 60,000 to 80,000 liters of water run off your roof. Most people just let it drain into the sewer. Yet this water could supply your garden for months. You only need containers, old rain barrels, large plastic drums like those used in the food industry. Some companies give them away for free. Ask at bakeries, breweries, or restaurants. Discarded bathtubs also work. IBC containers, those large cube-shaped tanks with a cage frame, are perfect. 1,000-liter capacity. Used, they cost $50 to $100. A worthwhile investment that pays off in the first summer. Place the containers under the rain gutter. Ideally, cut a piece out of the downspout and insert a rain collector. This is a small component with a sieve built into the downspout that directs part of the water into your barrel while the rest flows further down. When the barrel is full, a flap closes automatically. The whole system costs $15 to $30 at the hardware store. But there is also the simple solution. Just saw off the downspout just above the barrel. The water flows directly in. When the barrel is full, it overflows. Then place a second container next to it. Very important. Cover the containers with a lid or a fine mesh net for 2 reasons. First, it prevents mosquitoes from laying their eggs there. An open rain barrel is a paradise for mosquitoes. They lay their eggs on the water surface and the larvae develop in the water. After a few days, you have hundreds of new mosquitoes. A lid prevents this completely. Second, a lid keeps leaves and dirt out. Clean water is better for your plants and doesn't clog the watering can. Rainwater is actually better for plants than tap water. Tap water often contains lime. Some plants like rhododendrons, hydrangeas, and blueberries don't tolerate that well. They prefer acidic water. Rainwater is slightly acidic. Perfect. Tap water can contain chlorine. Not much, but enough to stress sensitive plants. Rainwater contains no chlorine. It is soft, pure, and has the right temperature. Tap water in summer is often cold from the pipe, which is a shock for plants on a hot day. Rainwater from the barrel has the outside temperature, which is much gentler. With a few large barrels, you are independent, even in dry times, even if water is rationed. In the summer of 2023, there were water use bans in some regions. People were no longer allowed to water the garden or wash the car. The public network was overloaded. Those who had their own rainwater were independent. The rules only applied to tap water. You were allowed to continue using rainwater. Your garden doesn't die because you have prepared. This is not just smart, it is vital for survival. Top 5. Companion planting, culture. Now let's come to a principle that can double your yields without needing more space. Companion planting. Plants are like people. Some get along well and help each other, while others hinder each other. Nature shows us this everywhere, but we have forgotten it. We have learned to think in monocultures, huge fields with only wheat or only corn or only rapeseed. That is unnatural and only works with massive use of chemicals, pesticides against pests, fungicides against fungi, herbicides against weeds, synthetic fertilizers for growth. That is expensive, environmentally harmful, and completely unnecessary in a small garden. Do it differently. Plant mixed, diverse, just as nature does. The science behind it is fascinating. Some plants excrete substances through their roots that help other plants or keep pests away. Other plants have different root depths. They don't compete for the same nutrients. Deep rooters bring minerals up from lower soil layers, and shallow rooters then use them. Some plants shade the soil and protect the roots of their neighbors from heat. Others climb and need support, while others provide exactly that support. Classic combinations known for generations include tomatoes and basil. This is not just a culinary combination. Basil contains essential oils that deter the whitefly, one of the main pests of tomatoes. At the same time, basil is said to improve the taste of tomatoes. Whether that is scientifically proven, I don't know, but generations of gardeners swear by it, and the whitefly defense definitely works. Carrots and onions. The carrot fly is a pest that attacks carrot plants, orienting itself by smell. Onions have a strong, sharp smell that masks the carrot smell, so the carrot fly doesn't find the carrots. Conversely, there is the onion fly that attacks onions, also orienting by smell. Carrots have a sweetish, characteristic smell that confuses the onion fly. Both plants protect each other. That is cooperation at the highest level. Beans, corn, and squash, the three sisters. This is perhaps the most ingenious companion planting ever. Native Americans have practiced it for centuries. The corn grows tall and strong. The beans climb up the corn stalk. They don't need poles because the corn is the pole. The beans are legumes. On their roots live nitrogen-fixing bacteria that bind nitrogen from the air and make it available in the soil. This nitrogen fertilizes the corn and the squash. The squash grows on the ground. Its large leaves shade the earth and keep weeds away. Its prickly stems deter slugs and other pests. Three plants that work perfectly together. Each fulfills a function. Together they are stronger than individually. Lettuce and radishes. Radishes grow fast, 4 weeks from sowing to harvest. Lettuce takes longer, 8 to 10 weeks. Plant both at the same time. The radishes are ready when the lettuce is still small. You harvest the radishes, which gives the lettuce room to grow. No waste of space, efficiency. Cabbage and celery. Cabbage plants are easily attacked by the cabbage fly. Celery has a strong, spicy smell that confuses the cabbage fly, so it lays its eggs elsewhere. Additionally, celery loosens the soil with its deep roots, which benefits the shallow-rooting cabbage. But there are also negative combinations. Never plant beans next to onions or garlic. Onions and garlic inhibit the growth of beans, presumably through certain sulfur compounds they excrete. Beans grow poorly and form little fruit. Never plant tomatoes next to potatoes. Both belong to the nightshade family and are susceptible to the same diseases, especially late blight. If they stand close together, the disease easily jumps from one plant to another. Keep your distance. Never plant fennel next to anything. Fennel is a loner. It excretes substances that inhibit most other plants. Give it its own bed. Learn these combinations. Try them out. Take notes on what works well for you. Every garden is different. Every climate is different. What works perfectly in one place might work differently in another. Experiment, but experiment with a system. Note your plantings and observe the results. After a few years, you will know exactly which combinations are ideal in your garden. Top 6. Seed saving and independence. The sixth principle is one of the most powerful. Become independent of seed purchases. Every time you eat a tomato, a pepper, a zucchini, or a squash, you are holding dozens of future plants in your hand, the seeds. But most people throw them away and buy new seeds next year for $3, $4, or $5 per packet. Yet it is so easy to save your own seeds. However, there is an important restriction. It only works with heirloom, salmon fest varieties, not with hybrids. What is the difference? Heirloom varieties are varieties that have been stable over generations. If you grow an heirloom tomato, save seeds from it, and sow them next year, you get exactly the same tomato. Same taste, same shape, same properties. Hybrids are crosses of two parent lines. They are often very productive and uniformly resistant, but their seeds are not stable. If you save seeds from hybrids and sow them, you often get inferior plants. Small fruits, poor taste, lower yield. The traits split up. That is genetics. How do you know if a variety is heirloom? It usually says so on the seed packet. Or you buy from specialized suppliers who only carry heirloom varieties. Once bought, you can then propagate these seeds yourself for decades. That is true independence. For tomatoes, take the ripest, healthiest, tastiest fruits. Cut them open, squeeze the seeds with the jelly into a glass. Add some water. Place the glass in a warm place. After 2 to 3 days, a layer of mold forms on top. This looks unappetizing but is intentional. This fermentation process breaks down the gelatinous coating around the seeds. In nature, this coating prevents the seeds from germinating inside the fruit. Fermentation mimics digestion in an animal's gut. After fermentation, pour everything through a sieve. Rinse the seeds thoroughly. Dry them on newspaper or a plate. Label them with the variety. And yes, store them in paper envelopes, cool and dry. Peppers and chili are even easier. Cut open the ripe fruit, take out the seeds, spread them on newspaper, let them dry for a week. Done. Label in envelopes, store cool. Zucchini and squash. Here you must wait until the fruit is fully ripe. For zucchini, let one hang on the vine until it becomes large and hard. The skin must be firm, no longer soft. Then cut it open, remove the seeds, wash them, and dry them. For squash, you let them ripen until autumn anyway. Then you cut them open for the kitchen and save the seeds on the side. Beans and peas are the easiest of all. Let some pods dry on the vine until they are brown and brittle. Pick them, open them. The beans or peas inside are your seeds. Store them dry. Next year, just stick them back in the ground. Lettuce. Let one plant bolt. That means it grows tall and forms a flower stalk. The yellow flowers become small, fluffy tufts. In each tuft are dozens of tiny seeds. Cut off the whole stalk when most tufts look dry. Hang it upside down over a cloth. The seeds will fall out on their own. Collect them and store them. Every vegetable type has its own peculiarities, but the principle is always the same. Ripe fruit or plant. Remove seeds, clean, dry, label, store cool, dry, and dark. With this method, you build a seed library over the years. Dozens, eventually hundreds of different varieties adapted to your climate, your soil, and your conditions, because plants adapt. If you take seeds from the best plants every year, you are unconsciously selecting. The plants that grow best for you pass on their traits. After 10 years, you have varieties that are perfect for your garden, more resistant, more productive, tastier. That is breeding on a small scale. Farmers have done this for millennia, and you can too. Top 7 Potato Towers. Now comes something that sounds revolutionary, but is actually ancient knowledge. Potatoes in a tower. Potatoes are one of the most valuable foods ever. They are filling. They store for months. They are nutritious and versatile in the kitchen. Uncomplicated to grow. Half a square meter of potatoes provides more calories than half a square meter of any other vegetable. Potatoes saved Europe from famines in the 17th and 18th centuries. They grow in poor soils, they tolerate cool climates, and they are easy to store. No wonder they became the basis of nutrition. But normally, potatoes need a lot of space. Classic cultivation involves digging furrows, placing the potatoes in, and hilling up soil repeatedly. After 4 months, you dig them out laboriously. That is not back-friendly. There is a better way, the potato tower. Build a tower about 1 millimeter in diameter. You can use wire mesh fence, formed into a circle and fixed with wire or cable ties, or stack old tires on top of each other. Yes, there are discussions about possible pollutants from tires. If you have concerns, use wooden boards screwed together into a square tower, or bricks or large planting bags. This is how it goes. Fill the bottom with good soil 20 centimeter high. Place 4 to 6 seed potatoes on top. Seed potatoes are either special small potatoes you buy, or you use potatoes from the previous year that have started to sprout. These sprouts are the future shoots. Cover the potatoes with 10 centimeters of soil and water them. Wait. After 2 to 3 weeks, you will see green shoots coming out of the ground. Let them grow about 20 centimeters, then pour in more soil so that only the top 5 to 10 centimeters of the plant sticks out. The plant reacts by forming new roots and new potato tubers along the buried stalk. Let them grow 20 centimeters again, then add more soil. Continue this until your tower is about 1 millimeter high. What have you achieved? Every potato plant has several levels full of tubers. The first ones you placed at the bottom, then the next generation above, and so on. A single plant can produce 5, 10, or 15 kilos of potatoes. In a tower of 1 millimeter diameter, 4 to 6 plants grow. That is 60 to 90 kilo of potatoes on less than 1 square meter of ground area. The harvest is easy. When the foliage on top wilts and dies, the potatoes are ripe. Wait another 2 weeks so the skins can form well. Then simply tip over the tower or open one side if you built a wooden frame. The soil falls out and potatoes are everywhere. You just pick them up. No digging, no searching, no heavy lifting, no back pain. Just potatoes. The soil from the tower, by the way, is excellent. The potatoes have loosened it, and the roots have incorporated organic material. Spread this soil on your beds or use it for the next tower. Top 8. Permaculture and guilds. This brings us to one of the most important concepts of all. Work with nature, not against it. Permaculture, the word comes from permanent agriculture. Permanent agriculture, coined in the 70s by 2 Australians, Bill Mollison and David Holmgren. But the principles behind it are ancient. It means observe, understand, imitate. See how nature works. Learn from it. Copy its methods. Go into the forest. What do you see? The ground is always covered with leaves, moss, and low plants. There are many different plants in a small space. Trees, shrubs, herbs, grasses, mosses, all at the same time. Everything is networked. The trees provide shade, the leaves fall and feed the soil. Fungi connect the roots of all plants into a giant network, the wood wide web. Nutrients are shared. Information about pests is passed on. This is a perfect, self-sustaining system. No one fertilizes a forest, no one waters, no one weeds, and yet everything grows magnificently. Why? Because the system is in balance, because it regulates itself, because it works with nature, not against it. Transfer that to your garden. Permaculture does not mean you let your garden go wild. It means you design it so that it does as much as possible itself. Don't plant in straight rows every 20 centimeters accurately. That is military. That is unnatural. Plant in guilds. A guild is a group of plants that support each other. Example of a fruit tree guild. In the middle, an apple tree. Around the trunk, you plant comfrey. Comfrey has deep roots that bring potassium up from the depths. Its leaves are nutrient-rich. They fall off and feed the tree. Around the comfrey, you plant garlic or chives. They keep pests away. Around that, marigolds. They attract beneficial insects. And at the very outside, clover as a ground cover. It binds nitrogen and suppresses weeds. These 5 plants form a guild. They all support the apple tree, and the apple tree gives fruit without chemicals, without constant care. Use every square inch. Permaculture works in layers. Tall growing, medium size, low growing. Ground covers, root vegetables under the earth. Climbing plants that grow upwards. All at the same time in the same place. This not only increases the yield dramatically, it makes your garden more resilient. If one plant fails, the others take over. If a pest attacks one species, the others are safe. That is diversity, that is stability, that is security. Exactly what you need in uncertain times. Top 9, the herb spiral. Stay tuned, because now it gets very concrete and practical. I will show you in a moment how you can have fresh herbs all year round with a simple spiral made of stones. Very few people remember this, but it is revolutionary for anyone who wants maximum variety in the smallest space. An herb spiral is a masterpiece of efficiency. On 2 square meters of space, 20, 25, or 30 different herbs grow simultaneously without hindering each other. How is that possible? Through a spiral that winds upwards and creates different microclimates. The principle, you build a spiral of stones that starts at the bottom and winds upwards. At the highest point, it is about 1 millimeter high. The diameter of the whole structure is about 2 to 3 m. The spiral creates different zones with different conditions. At the foot of the spiral, you can even create a small pond, just a shallow hollow lined with pond liner, filled with water. There and directly next to it, it is moist. The soil stores water. There you plant herbs that love moisture, watercress directly in the water, mint at the edge. Mint likes to grow moist and spread strongly. In the spiral, it cannot do that because it is limited by stones. Chives also like it moist, as does sorrel. In the middle, at half the height of the spiral, it is moderately moist. Water seeps down from above. The soil doesn't dry out as quickly as at the very top. There go herbs that prefer moderately moist conditions: parsley, flat and curly, cilantro, basil, chervil, lemon balm, dill. At the very top, at the highest point of the spiral, it is dry and sunny. The stones heat up and store warmth. Water drains away quickly. The soil is lean, perhaps mixed with sand. These are perfect conditions for Mediterranean herbs. They come from the Mediterranean region, where summers are hot and dry. There you plant thyme in different varieties: rosemary, which becomes woody and stays for years; sage, silvery and aromatic; oregano, which grows flat; lavender at the edge where it has space; and savory. You build the spiral from stones you collect for free, in the forest, at the edge of fields, in dry creek beds. Ask farmers who clear stones from their fields. Most are happy to get rid of them. You don't need mortar. A dry wall is enough. Just stack the stones on top of each other. Large, heavy ones at the bottom, smaller ones at the top. The spiral shape gives stability. The stones hold each other. The stones have several functions. They stabilize the structure. They store heat during the day and release it at night, which extends the growing season. And in the gaps between the stones, lizards, toads, and insects settle, all beneficial creatures that eat pests. The stones create shade for soil dwellers and shelter. You fill the spiral with soil, fertile garden soil at the bottom, preferably a bit loamy to hold moisture; normal garden soil mixed with compost in the middle; lean soil mixed with sand or fine gravel at the top. The higher, the more permeable. This mimics the natural habitats of the plants. After construction, you plant your herbs, small plants from the garden center, or you grow them yourself from seeds, or you divide plants from neighbors. Once planted, most herbs need hardly any care. Mediterranean herbs are extremely frugal. Once established, you only water them in extreme drought. You almost never need to fertilize them. They prefer lean soil. Too much fertilizer makes them soft and susceptible and reduces the aroma. Your herb spiral delivers all year round. In spring, chives, parsley, and sorrel sprout. In summer, you have the abundance: basil, dill, cilantro. In autumn, harvest thyme and sage for winter supplies. In winter, as long as it's not deep frozen, you can harvest rosemary, thyme, and sage. They are evergreen or semi-evergreen. Fresh herbs are not just taste, they are medicine. Our ancestors knew this. Every herb has healing effects. Thyme for coughs and bronchitis. Its essential oils loosen mucus and have an antibacterial effect. Sage for sore throats and inflammation in the mouth. Gargle with sage tea. Peppermint for stomach complaints and headaches. Chamomile calms the stomach. Lavender calms the nerves and promotes sleep. Rosemary stimulates circulation and helps with low blood pressure. Your herb spiral is a living pharmacy. Free, always available. No expired medications, no side effects, only pure natural healing power. And additionally, delicious taste in the kitchen. Parsley over potatoes, basil on tomatoes, rosemary with fried potatoes, thyme in soups, dill with pickled vegetables. Your herb spiral makes you independent in many ways. Top 10, the keyhole garden. The 10th principle sounds unusual, but it is brilliant. The keyhole garden. Imagine a round bed, about 3 mesh in diameter. From the outside, it looks like a normal round raised bed, but in the middle, a narrow path leads in, about 60 centimeters wide. Viewed from above, it looks like a keyhole, hence the name. In the middle of the bed, at the end of this path, is a basket, a cylindrical basket made of coarse mesh wire or woven from twigs, about 1 meter high and 50 centimeters in diameter. This basket is the heart of the system. In this basket, You throw your kitchen waste directly, daily, no composting needed. Vegetable peels, fruit scraps, coffee grounds, tea leaves, eggshells, everything that is organic. The waste rots directly there in the basket. Bacteria and worms from the surrounding bed migrate in and break everything down. The nutrients seep sideways into the bed. The plants all around are continuously fed. At the same time the contents of the basket sink, you can keep filling it up. The narrow path allows you to go into the middle without stepping on the bed. From the path you reach about 60 centimeters into the bed. From the outside also 60 centimeters. This means you can comfortably reach every plant in this 3-meter bed from the inside or the outside without ever stepping on the soil. Untrodden soil remains loose. The roots can grow easily. The structure remains intact. You build the keyhole garden similarly to a normal raised bed, a border of stones, wood, or whatever you have, filling in layers from coarse to fine. The central basket stands free in the middle. You fill it from above. The system has several advantages. First, zero work for composting, no turning piles, no transport of compost to the beds. Everything happens on site. Second, the plants get continuous nourishment, not once a year, but daily when you throw waste in. This leads to enormous productivity. Third, it saves space. On a 3-meter diameter, dozens of plants grow, and you can reach them all. Keyhole gardens originally come from Africa. In Lesotho, aid organizations introduced them to help families grow vegetables in the smallest space. They have proven extremely successful. Meanwhile, people worldwide use this method. You can improve the keyhole garden even more. Place a lid on the central basket so no flies are attracted, or throw some soil or leaves on top after each filling. This covers the waste and prevents odors. In winter, you can insulate the basket with a thick layer of straw so it doesn't freeze through and decomposition continues slowly. The keyhole garden is elegant, it is smart, and it shows how to achieve great effects with simple ideas. Form follows function. The shape of the keyhole results from the function. Central composting plus good accessibility all around. Perfection. Top 11. Green manure, Gründung. Now comes a principle that very few know, but that makes the difference between a good and an outstanding garden. Green manure. Your soil is not dead matter. It is a living ecosystem. In a handful of fertile garden soil live more organisms than there are people on Earth. Millions of bacteria, thousands of fungal spores, hundreds of nematodes, mites, springtails, and dozens of earthworms per square meter. They all need food, and if the soil is poor, they die. And then your plants are weak. Because the plants need these organisms. They need the nutrients they release and the loose structure they create. Green manure is the solution. This means you plant certain plants only to improve the soil, not for harvest. They grow, they die, they rot, and the soil gets better. In autumn, when the beds are empty after the last harvest, you sow green manure plants. Phacelia is one of the best, also called bee's friend, because its purple flowers attract bees and other pollinators. It grows fast and its roots go deep, loosening the soil down to 60 centimeter depth, better than you could with a spade. When it freezes in winter, you cut it off and let it lie as mulch, or you work it shallowly into the soil. It rots and feeds the microorganisms. Mustard is another option. It grows extremely fast. In 4 weeks, it is 30 centimeter high. Its roots excrete substances that drive away soil pests, especially nematodes that attack roots. After a winter with mustard, you have fewer problems with root pests the next year. Vetches, peas, and clover are legumes. They have a superpower. On their roots live nitrogen-fixing bacteria. These bacteria can bind nitrogen from the air and transform it into a form that plants can use. The air consists of 78% nitrogen, but in this form, plants cannot absorb it. The nitrogen-fixing bacteria bring this nitrogen into the soil, free fertilizer from the air. If you pull a vetch or pea out of the ground, you see small nodules on the roots. Those are the bacterial colonies, full of nitrogen. When the plant dies and rots, this nitrogen becomes free. The next plants you grow get a growth boost. Rye is a traditional green manure. It grows even in winter when nothing else grows. Its roots permeate the soil densely, which stabilizes it and prevents erosion. In spring, you mow it down and work it in, or let it lie as mulch. You can also use mixtures, different green manure plants combined. Each brings its advantages. Together, they have an even stronger effect. The beauty of green manure, it costs almost nothing. Seeds are cheap. A kilo of Phacelia seeds costs about $10 and is enough for 100 square meters. Mustard is even cheaper. Legumes you can even propagate yourself by letting some plants form seeds. Every year you do green manure, your soil becomes better, richer, more alive, and darker. After 5 years, you have soil like you otherwise only find in a forest. Crumbly, full of life, full of nutrients. Plants grow almost by themselves. That is long-term thinking. That is investment in the future. That is soil care at the highest level. Top 12, natural pest control. The 12th principle is one our grandparents knew, but we have forgotten. Natural pest control. Chemistry is expensive. Chemistry kills not only pests, but also beneficial insects. Chemistry poisons your food. Chemistry accumulates in the soil. Chemistry kills bees and other pollinators. Without pollinators, no fruit. It can be done differently. Nature has developed solutions that have worked for millions of years. The principle is called ecological balance. In nature, there are no pest plagues. Why? Because there are natural enemies. For every pest, there exists a beneficial insect that eats it. Your task is to attract these beneficial insects and offer them habitat. Ladybugs are fantastic, beneficial insects. A single ladybug eats up to 50 aphids per day. The larvae eat even more. How do you attract ladybugs? Plant marigolds. Marigolds bloom all summer. Their flowers produce nectar and pollen. Ladybugs feed not only on aphids but also on pollen. The marigolds give them additional food. At the same time, marigolds offer shelter. Plant them between your vegetables everywhere. They are not only useful, they are also beautiful. Hoverflies look like wasps but are harmless. Their larvae are voracious aphid hunters. A single larva eats several hundred aphids in its life. Hoverflies love umbellifers, plant dill, fennel, cilantro, lovage, and parsley. Let them bloom. The tiny flowers attract hoverflies in droves. Lacewings are also excellent aphid destroyers. Their larvae are popularly called aphid lions. Rightly so. They are extremely effective. Lacewings love to overwinter in hollow spaces. Build insect hotels or simply hang up bundles of bamboo sticks or hollow stalks. Lacewings move in and stay. Leave a corner of your garden wild. Don't cut everything off. Let nettles stand. Let grasses grow tall. Let dead plant stalks stand over the winter. In this wild corner, hedgehogs settle. Hedgehogs eat snails, beetles, and insects. A hedgehog consumes up to 70 grams of insects per night. Over a summer, that is several kilograms. Set up hedgehog houses in several places. An inverted basket with an entrance or a pile of brushwood. Hedgehogs like to move in. Toads are also great helpers. A common toad eats about 10 snails per night, plus hundreds of small insects. Toads need moisture and shelter. A small pond or even a shallow water bowl attracts them. Piles of stones or wood offer daytime hiding places. Lizards eat insects of all kinds. They love sunny spots. Stack stones on top of each other in sunny places. The stones heat up, and lizards come for sunbathing. In the gaps between the stones, they nest. Ground beetles are nocturnal hunters. They eat snail eggs, caterpillars, and grubs. They like dark, moist hiding places during the day. Layboards or flat stones on the ground. Ground beetles move in underneath. Set up wood piles, dead wood, old branches, logs, boards. They rot slowly, and while they rot, they are habitat for countless beneficial insects. Wild bees nest in tall stalks or bore holes in wood. Earwigs hide in crevices and eat aphids at night. Spiders weave their nets and catch flies. Ground beetles hunt under the protection of the wood. Your garden becomes a system that regulates itself. Yes, there will be aphids, but before they become a plague, the ladybugs come. There will be snails, but the hedgehogs and toads keep them in check. There will be caterpillars, but the birds feed their young with them. Nature has perfected this for millions of years. Predator and prey in balance. You only have to create the right conditions, then it does the work for you. Free, reliable, sustainable. And you have a garden full of life, full of humming and chirping, full of movement. That is not only practical, it is also beautiful. That feeds the soul. Top 13, plant slurries, jochen. Now comes something practical that works immediately and costs nothing. Plant slurries. You may have heard of nettle slurry, perhaps also of comfrey slurry. But do you know how incredibly simple and effective it is? Plants contain nutrients. When they rot, these nutrients become free. Normally this takes months, but you can accelerate it through fermentation in water. The result is a concentrated nutrient solution. Liquid fertilizer, the best there is, free from wild plants. Nettle slurry is the best known. Collect a bucket full of nettles. Wear gloves, they sting. Cut the plants small. Fill a bucket or a barrel halfway with nettles. Pour rainwater on top until the container is about 80% full. Not completely full because it foams. Cover the container, but not airtight. Air must get in or it will tip over. Place it in a distant corner because it doesn't smell pleasant. Intense, sharp, unpleasant. But that is temporary. Stir once every day with a stick or rod. This aerates the slurry and accelerates the process. After about 2 weeks in summer, 3 to 4 weeks in spring or autumn, the slurry is ready. You recognize it because it no longer foams. The liquid is dark. It still smells unpleasant, but differently than at the beginning. Test it. Put a dash in a glass of water. Is the water clear or cloudy? If it is clear, the slurry is ready. Dilute the slurry in a ratio of 1 to 10 with water, 1 liter of slurry to 10 liters of water. Then water your plants with it directly at the roots, not on the leaves. Nettle slurry mainly provides nitrogen. Nitrogen promotes leaf growth, perfect for leafy vegetables like lettuce, spinach, and cabbage. Perfect for tomatoes and peppers in the growth phase. Water every 2 weeks with diluted slurry. The plants literally explode. Comfrey slurry is less known but just as valuable. Comfrey is a wild plant with large rough leaves. It likes to grow in moist places. Comfrey has extremely deep roots up to 2 meters. These roots get minerals from depths that other plants never reach, especially potassium. Potassium is important for flowers and fruits. Make comfrey slurry exactly like nettle slurry. Dilute it 1 to 10. Water tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, squash, and beans with it as soon as they begin to bloom. The potassium promotes fruit formation. More flowers, more fruits, better taste. Horsetail slurry is a special case. Horsetail, also called scouring rush, contains a lot of silica. Silica strengthens the cell walls of plants. Plants with strong cell walls are more resistant to fungal diseases like mildew and late blight. Collect horsetail in early summer, make slurry or make a tea. Boil horsetail in water, simmer for 20 minutes, let cool, strain. Dilute 1 to 5. Spray the plants with it every 2 weeks. This is prevention. If fungal diseases break out, it is too late. But if you spray regularly, you have hardly any problems. These 3 slurries cover almost everything: growth, fruit formation, disease protection, and they cost nothing. You collect wild plants, make slurry, feed your garden, cycle, perfection. Our ancestors knew this before there was synthetic fertilizer, before there was chemistry. They used what nature offered, and they had magnificent gardens. Top 14, seed swapping and community. The 14th principle is social and smart at the same time. Seed swapping. You have learned to save your own seeds. That is independence. But diversity is strength, and diversity you get through swapping. Look for like-minded people in your community. Ask at a senior center, in the church congregation, in the garden club, or at the weekly market. Talk to people who sell vegetables. Often these are hobby gardeners who harvest more than they need. They are usually enthusiastic gardeners and like to talk about it. Ask if they swap seeds. Most are immediately interested. Organize a seed swap day, not complicated at all. Invite people, e.g., to a community center or a cafe. Everyone brings seeds, labeled with the variety and possibly special properties. Everyone is allowed to take what they want and gives what they can spare. This works wonderfully. People are generous in this context. Every year your collection grows. Every year you try new varieties. Some work better than others for you. The best you keep, the others you pass on at the next swap. Perhaps they work well for someone else. Thus, over years, a seed collection arises that is perfectly adapted to your location, resilient, diverse, and you build relationships. You get to know other gardeners. You swap not only seeds, but also knowledge, tips, experiences, recipes, perhaps even seedlings or harvest surpluses. That is community. That is the core of a functioning local economy. Mutual help, swapping instead of buying, relationships instead of anonymity. In times of crisis, such networks are worth gold. When supply collapses, people who know each other, who trust each other, who have relationships, help each other. Build these relationships now, not only when you need them. Top 15 Winter Vegetables. Now something that many overlook even though it secures your supply in winter. Winter vegetables. Most think garden means summer, from April to October. Then there is a break. But the really smart gardeners know the winter is just as important. Kale, one of the most robust plants ever. It tolerates frost down to 15 degrees Celsius. Yes, 15. Frost even makes it better. The cold transforms starch into sugar. Kale after the first frost tastes sweeter, milder. You plant it in July or August. It grows all autumn. In November, you begin to harvest. You pick the lowest leaves. The plant continues to grow at the top. This way you harvest throughout the winter until March. A single plant delivers kilogram after kilogram of leaves. Brussels sprouts, also frost hardy. It stands all winter. You harvest the small sprouts on the stalks gradually from bottom to top. Fresh from the garden after a frost. Brussels sprouts taste fantastic. Sweet, nutty. No comparison to what lies in the supermarket. Leeks, also called porree, frost hardy down to 10 degrees. It stands in the bed and you harvest whenever you need it for soups, casseroles, or quiches. Leek is mild, pleasant, and versatile. Lamb's lettuce, the winter vegetable par excellence. Sowing in September, it grows slowly but steadily even in cold. You harvest from November to April. Again and again, you cut the rosettes just above the ground. Often they grow back and you have a second harvest. Winter purslane, an almost forgotten vegetable. Sow in September or October. It grows even in frost. Its fleshy leaves taste mild, slightly nutty, perfect for salads or briefly steamed. Winter spinach. There are special varieties for winter. Sowing in September. It grows until December, then it stagnates. In February, it continues to grow. In March and April, you have fresh spinach. The beauty of winter vegetables, you plant them once in late summer, then they stand all winter. You hardly water, it usually rains enough. You don't weed, weeds hardly grow in winter. You don't fertilize, the plants grow slowly. You simply harvest whenever you need something. In winter, when supermarkets are expensive, when imported vegetables cost a fortune because they are flown in from Spain or Morocco, when everything except cabbage and carrots is scarce, when everyone else is dependent on canned goods, you go into your garden and get fresh kale, fresh Brussels sprouts, fresh lamb's lettuce. That is not only saving money, that is independence, that is security, that is quality of life when others have to do without. Top 16 Hillbeds, Hugelkultur. The 16th principle is labor-intensive during setup, but pure joy thereafter. Hillbeds. You have heard of raised beds. Hillbeds are the upgrade. Imagine digging a shallow trench, 30 to 40 centimeters deep, about 1 meter wide, as long as desired. You pile the soil to the side. In the trench, you place wood, thick logs, branches, everything you have. Also half-rotted wood from the forest. The more, the better. Fill the trench completely with wood. On top of that comes smaller wood, twigs, brushwood, then a thick layer of leaves, then a layer of semi-finished compost or grass clippings, and at the very top, the soil you dug out plus additional good garden soil or compost. The result is a bed that is about 60 to 80 centimeters high, a small hill. What happens? The wood inside begins to rot slowly over years. This creates heat. The bed is warmer than the surrounding soil, measurably warmer. The plants grow faster. The season extends by weeks, sometimes months. You can plant earlier in spring and harvest later in autumn because the bed heats itself from the inside. The structure of the bed is extremely loose. The roots find their way easily and grow deep. This makes the plants resistant to drought. Even on hot days, they don't wilt because their roots reach deep into the moist interior. The surface of the hill is larger than the base area. A hill has flanks. These flanks are additional planting area. On one molar mesh width, because you also plant on the sides, you can use the area of 1.5 meters. More space for plants. The hill bed sinks over the years. In the first year, perhaps 10 centimeters, in the second year, another 10. That is normal. It shows that the wood is rotting. You simply top it up with some compost. After 5 to 7 years, the wood is largely rotted. The bed is now flatter, perhaps still 40 centimeters high, but the soil is incredible. Black, crumbly, full of life. The most fertile soil you ever had. After 10 to 20 years, the wood is completely rotted. The bed is flat, but you have profited for decades from this one installation. Hill beds are an old Germanic principle. In Eastern Europe, they are called Hügelkultur. They have worked for centuries, especially in areas with a cool climate or short summers. They are ingenious. The heat makes the difference between a good and an outstanding harvest. The construction is work. Digging, hauling wood, stacking, filling. But you do this work once, then no more. The bed works for 20 years. An investment in the future. Top 17, vermicomposting and the black gold. And the last, the 17th principle, is perhaps the most underrated. Soil improvement with vermicompost. You have learned normal composting. Vermicomposting is the premier class. Get yourself compost worms, not normal earthworms. Those live deep in the soil and are not suitable. You need compost worms, also called manure worms. Eisenia fetida or Eisenia andrae. They live on the surface in rotting organic material. You get them from other gardeners at a swap, or you find them in old manure piles or compost piles, or you buy them once. A handful is enough. They multiply rapidly. Put them in a box, a wooden box, a plastic box, it doesn't matter, about 50 liters volume. Drill holes in the bottom for drainage. Place the box on feet and a tray underneath to catch the worm tea. Fill the box halfway with soil and torn cardboard or newspaper. Moisten everything. Put the worms in and feed them with vegetable scraps. Small amounts at the beginning until the worms have settled in. The worms eat. They eat incredibly much, their own body weight every day. A handful of worms processes several kilograms of waste in a month. They digest and produce worm humus, worm castings. That sounds unappetizing, but it is gold. Black, odorless, crumbly gold. Worm humus is the most concentrated natural fertilizer that exists. It contains all the nutrients the original materials had, but in perfectly plant-available form. It contains enzymes, hormones, and microorganisms that stimulate plant growth. Studies show that plants fertilized with worm humus grow faster and form more leaves, more flowers, and more fruits. They are more resistant to diseases and pests. A teaspoon of worm humus is enough for a large flower pot. It is that concentrated. After a few months, the box is full of worm humus. Time to harvest. Push the entire contents to one side of the box. Fill the empty side with fresh soil and cardboard. Place new vegetable scraps on the fresh side. The worms migrate over to the food. After 2 weeks, almost all worms are on the fresh side. Remove the worm humus from the other side. Done. Additionally, the worms produce worm tea, the liquid that drips through the holes in the bottom of the box and collects in the tray underneath. This worm tea is liquid super fertilizer, full of nutrients and microorganisms. Dilute it in a ratio of 1 to 10 with water. Water your plants with it or spray the leaves. Plants can also absorb nutrients through the leaves. The effect is immediately visible. Darker leaves, stronger growth. All this happens in a small box. You can have it in the garage, in the basement, even in the apartment if you want. Because properly managed, a worm box does not smell. The worms need little attention. Feed once a week, occasionally check the moisture. That's it. And they transform kitchen waste into the most valuable fertilizer in the world. These are the 17 principles. But let me show you how they work together, because that is crucial. Imagine your garden in a year. You have built raised beds from free materials. They are comfortable to work on. The soil is covered with mulch. You water rarely with free rainwater from your barrels. You hardly weed because the mulch suppresses the weeds. Your compost pile transforms kitchen waste into food for the plants. The keyhole garden does the same, directly in the bed. Your plants grow in companion planting, protecting and strengthening each other. Beneficial insects have found habitat and regulate pests without your intervention. You fertilize with homemade slurries and worm humus. You use your own seeds, swapped and propagated over years. Potatoes grow in a tower in the smallest space. Green manure prepares the beds for the next season. The hill bed extends the growing season. In winter, you harvest fresh kale. Your herb spiral delivers medicine and seasoning all year round. You are part of a local network of gardeners who share seeds, knowledge, and surpluses. Do you see how everything meshes? Each of these principles works alone, but together they form a system that needs less and less work the longer it runs, a system that becomes more and more productive the longer it exists, a system that makes you independent of rising prices, of uncertain supply chains, of the mercy of the supermarket, and of the fluctuations of the economy. I know what I'm talking about. I have seen people who at 80 years old still go into their garden every day. Not because they have to, but because this garden gives them what no insurance, no bank account, and no pension can give. Self-efficacy. The feeling of still being needed by the plants waiting for their care, by themselves because they are doing something meaningful, and the security that they are provided for. No matter what comes, no matter what crisis, no matter what prices, they have their own food. Many people say, I am too old to start. I am too weak. I have no more strength for a garden. My back, my knees, my hands. But that is a misunderstanding. These methods were developed exactly for that. For people like you. For people who work smart, not hard, who use their energy purposefully, who invest once and then harvest. You build a raised bed once and use it for 20 years. You lay out mulch once and save yourself hundreds of hours of work. You collect rainwater once and are independent for the whole summer. You plant an herb spiral once and harvest for decades. That is not strength. That is intelligence. That is experience. That is wisdom. Our grandparents didn't have the technology we have today. No garden centers with ready-made soil, no synthetic fertilizers from the factory, no high-performance tools, but they had knowledge. Knowledge about cycles, about connections, about patience, about nature. And this knowledge brought them through hard times, through wars, through economic crises, through years in which supply collapsed. The garden was not a hobby, not a pastime, not decoration. The garden was life, was survival, was the silent guarantee that the family would get through. We are now facing similar challenges, perhaps not identical, but similar in core. Prices are rising faster than ever before, 20% inflation on food in some years. Pensions are reaching less and less. What allowed a comfortable life 10 years ago is barely enough today. Supply chains have become fragile. Just-in-time delivery means no storage. If the supply chain falters, the shelves are empty. We have seen it. During the pandemic, empty shelves, rationing, panic. And those who got through best were not the richest, were not those with the largest bank account, but those who had a garden, who were not dependent on the system, who could provide for themselves. That is not doom-mongering. That is realism. The world is not becoming more stable. It is becoming more volatile. Crises are becoming more frequent, not rarer. Climate change, political tensions, economic uncertainties, all of this affects your supply, your security. Realism means being prepared, but being prepared doesn't have to mean fear. It can also mean joy. The joy of seeing the first shoots in spring that you planted in autumn. The joy of harvesting ripe tomatoes in summer, warm from the sun. The joy of digging up potatoes in autumn, kilogram after kilogram. The joy of cutting fresh greens in winter when everything around you is gray. This joy is real. It is tangible. It feeds not only the body, it feeds the soul. It gives meaning. It gives structure. It gives hope. And it gives you something that cannot be bought: dignity. The dignity of not being dependent, not being reliant on handouts, not on the mercy of others. You have provided for yourself. You have planned, you have worked, you have built, and now you harvest not only vegetables, but self-respect, self-confidence, and certainty. I can do this. I created this. I am capable. There are people who laugh at such thoughts. They say exaggerated, alarmist, doomsday mood. Everything will be fine. The state provides, the economy recovers. Everything will be normal again. Perhaps they are right. Perhaps everything stays stable. Perhaps there are no crises. Perhaps it is all scaremongering. But even then, what have you lost? You have a beautiful garden. You have fresh, healthy, organic vegetables without pesticides, without chemistry. You have movement in the fresh air. Good for the body, good for the mind. You have a meaningful occupation that fulfills. You have saved money, perhaps hundreds of dollars per year. You have gained quality of life. That is no loss. That is a gain. No matter what comes, you have only won. But if they are not right, if it actually becomes difficult, if prices continue to rise, if supply bottlenecks occur, if rationing comes, then you are prepared, then you are secured, then you have peace while others fall into panic. That is not a luxury. That is prudence. That is foresight. That is responsibility for yourself. I want you to understand this. These 17 principles are not a project for 1 year. They are not a hobby that you start and give up again. They are a way of life, a way that becomes easier with every year, more productive with every year, more beautiful with every year. Because a garden is never finished. It develops, it grows, it matures, just like you. Perhaps you think now, that is too much. I cannot implement all 17 things at the same time. I am overwhelmed. Where should I start? And that is a legitimate concern, but you don't have to. Start small. Choose 3 principles, the 3 that appeal to you most, the 3 that are most important for your situation. Implement them. This year, you concentrate on them, master them. And next year, 3 more are added. And the year after that, another 3. Step by step, patiently, consistently, steadily. In 5 years, you have a system that feeds, protects, and fulfills you. And these 5 years pass anyway. Time passes whether you do something or not. The question is only, where do you stand then? With a garden or without? With independence or without? With security or without? I have met people who started gardening at 65. They said, I wish I had started 20 years ago, but I'm starting now. It's never too late. And after 10 years, they said, that was the best decision of my life, not because of the vegetables alone, but because of everything. The structure the garden gives their day. Getting up in the morning because the plants are waiting for them. The fulfillment of seeing something grow, of creating something. The community with other gardeners they get to know, with whom they swap, with whom they talk. The health through movement, fresh air, fresh food. The security of being provided for, of being independent, everything together. The garden is a teacher, the best you can have. It teaches patience, because plants grow at their own pace, not yours. It teaches humility, because sometimes something fails despite all effort, despite all knowledge. It teaches gratitude, because every harvest is a gift, not self-evident. It teaches connection, because you feel again that you are part of nature, not separate from it, not standing above it. And it teaches trust, because you learn that nature works, that it is reliable when you work with it instead of against it. These are lessons that have become rare today in a world that is becoming faster, louder, more hectic, and more superficial. The garden is a point of rest, a place of clarity, a place of slowness, a place where things still make sense, where cause and effect are directly visible, where honest work brings honest results, where you reap what you sow, literally. That is healing, for the body that moves, for the mind that focuses, for the soul that finds peace. And let me say something that perhaps sounds surprising. A garden connects generations. Perhaps you have grandchildren, perhaps young neighbors, perhaps acquaintances with children. Show them what you do, explain to them why. Tell them about the cycles, about the connections. Let them help if you want. Children today no longer learn where food comes from. They think it comes from the supermarket, ready, packaged, sterile, anonymous. But if you put seeds in the ground with them, if they see how a plant becomes from this tiny seed, if they see the plant grow day by day, if they eat a tomato directly from the bush, warm from the sun, sweet and aromatic, then they understand for the first time, really. They understand the value. They understand the cycle. They understand life. They understand what it means to create something, to care for something, to harvest something. And this knowledge they take with them into their future. They pass on what they have learned. The cycle continues. That is your legacy, not money, not possessions, but knowledge, skills, values. That is the most valuable inheritance you can leave behind. Now I want you to pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Think of your garden or the place where your garden could be. Perhaps a backyard, perhaps a small piece of meadow, perhaps a balcony, perhaps even just a few large pots on the terrace. No matter how large or small, imagine how it could look in a year. The raised beds filled with blooming, greening plants, the herb spiral, fragrant and alive, full of bees, the compost pile, working quietly to itself, creating life from waste, the rain barrel filled with clear water, ready for the next dry period, the potato towers full of underground treasures, the keyhole garden productive and efficient, a small ecosystem, the companion planting, colorful and healthy. Every plant supports the other. Beneficial insects humming, crawling, hunting. The soil lives. Everything is connected. Everything works together. And you in the middle harvest, not only vegetables, but fulfillment. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you smell it? The scent of earth, of herbs, of ripe tomatoes. That is not fantasy. That is possibility, real, tangible possibility. It is just waiting for you to act. Not sometime, not next year. Not when you have more time, more money, more strength, but now, today, in this moment. The best time to start a garden was 20 years ago when you were younger, stronger, had more time. The second best time is now, exactly now, despite your age, despite your complaints, despite your doubts. You have learned 17 powerful principles in this video. 7 proven, tested, functioning ways how you can create a garden without much money, without great physical strength, but with knowledge, with cleverness, with a system that feeds and protects you. These principles are not new. They are not experimental. They are proven over generations, over centuries. They are reliable. They work everywhere for everyone. Thousands, tens of thousands of people worldwide use them. People like you, older people, people with limitations, people with little space, people with little money, and they all have success because these principles work. People who have understood that true security does not lie in a bank account, not in the state pension, not in a supermarket on the corner, but in the ability to provide for oneself, in independence, in self-efficacy, in one's own hands, one's own earth, one's own plants. If this story changed how you look at the weeds in your garden, subscribe to our channel. We are unearthing the history they tried to bury. Plant the future. The next treasure will open soon. Give this video a like so the algorithm spreads it further, reaching more people who need this knowledge. Share it with friends, family, and neighbors. Everyone who could have a garden needs these principles. And tell us in the comments, which of the 17 principles will you implement first? Your journey to independence starts with a single seed. Take that step today.